remember his response being something along the lines of, you have to be incredibly skilled. You have to be multidisciplinary. You have to be able to do lots of different things at a high level, because if you can't, somebody else can.
How's your teaching going though? Like, where are you teaching? You know what? You are a very difficult person to find information about online.
I really,
You
I
really are.
don't have too much of a footprint.
No, you don't. I Googled, like, tried to dive deep, and there's no diving deep on Pierina Perry
Not really. It's
because
a very basic website, and obviously my Instagram. And I dread to think what institutions have some very outdated versions of my biographies on their websites. When I Google myself, the most random things come up, but hopefully nothing too incriminating.
no, it really doesn't. And it was quite interesting actually, because I was like, I usually do a lot of research into what you've done and everything that you've gone into. And really there is so very little about you on the internet, which is why, firstly, I want to say thank you so much for joining me today to like come and chat about singing. I love it.
You're welcome. It's so nice to see you, actually. It's been many years.
It really has. I think I moved here in 2007.
Mhm.
So yeah, like in May no, sorry, 2017.
There's
Yeah.
absolutely no way it was 2007. I was going to say a child, not quite, but
Like, it was that long ago before we both started teaching. No, I moved here in 2017. So it's been a really long time since I've seen you.
yeah. Oh, was it that long ago? Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Yes, because we had a little spell working together
Yeah.
at London Studio Centre. I was trying to work out when that was, actually. I didn't realise it was 2017.
It
So it was a little
was,
bit before COVID.
yeah, it was like from 2000 into 2016 to like mid 2017. I wasn't there for very long.
Wow. No. And
Because
then
we
it was
ended up both
COVID.
getting injured at like the same time, which was really crazy.
Yeah, well, you had been through it, and I was like calling you like, help me, Zoe, I don't know what's going on. So yes, I was very grateful for your advice around that time.
Well, it's interesting though. Actually, a couple of my colleagues had went through exactly the same problem at the same time, which was really crazy to think about. And also, I don't know about you, but I definitely didn't notice. Like, it took me a long time to notice that there was something actually wrong for me to actually
Mm.
go and even get checked out.
Well, at the time when it happened, I definitely acknowledged that's weird. That feels weird. There was
Okay.
definitely like a one moment in time I was like, oh gosh, that feels really, really strange. Um, and I sounded bizarre, but I just thought I was tired. And then I just ended up being hoarse and was struggling with fatigue. And I thought, oh, okay, with rest that will resolve. But then it didn't. And that
Mm-hmm.
was why I needed to investigate further.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I don't know. I actually have no idea when it happened for me. I just remember I was like singing a children's song bizarrely, and I was like going, "Oh, McDonald," because I taught children's music as well. And had a fun. Yeah, I couldn't sing like nothing came out, and I was like, "Oh,
I think for me, well, I was gigging and I was singing Tina Turner, and I felt the classic like pop or whatever they say it is.
uh-huh,
But I didn't know that at the time. And then the sound that came out was just, it was really raspy, but it worked for what I was singing.
uh-huh."
um, Strangely, but I felt like I had no control and I had to stop. And luckily, my sister was there also singing, so she finished the gig. But I was like, what was that? Um,
Wow.
yeah, but that's only with hindsight. I think at the time I was like, oh, that's weird. And then it was only as time went on and I didn't recover and I was like, I need to find out what's going on, that I thought back to that and I was like, oh, okay, it all makes sense now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's crazy. And just for any, I mean, people who don't know, Perina and I both suffered from vocal fold hemorrhages, which ended up turning in. Did yours turn into a polyp as well?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Fantastic. We both then had them surgically removed by the same ENT surgeon, Dr. John Rubin in London. So woo, woo, he was amazing. And I'd let him do it again. I have to say,
Well, we've both said that we felt like we had a voice lift when we had surgery. I think partly because you spend, I don't know how long you had to wait for yours, but there was quite a few months I had to wait before having surgery. And so you are making do when you are so compromised. I think once that's gone, and you're literally back to scratch to square one in a way, you know, you start
Hmm.
again from scratch, from fresh. Yeah, I felt like my voice could do things it couldn't do even before having the polyp. So it was not a nice thing to go through. I wouldn't recommend, but there definitely were some advantages and silver linings. And yes, thank you for going through that first, because then you came out the other side fine, and were obviously singing John Rubens' praises. Even though
Hmm.
I know he comes highly recommended, but it was amazing to know somebody that had been through the exact same procedure.
Oh, he's absolutely
Scary.
amazing. I was sick for quite a while actually. I just felt like into a really deep hole. I like got really, really down. I couldn't speak. Like you're saying, hoarseness. I completely lost my voice. And then I just was continually sick.
Yeah.
And so I think I lost my voice for about 4, maybe 5 months. And then I got my surgery. I was just flying back and forth from Germany to London to get checkups all the time. And he was like, no, you're too sick. No, you're too sick. And I just wasn't able to get it done.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, that was very frustrating.
So
Yeah.
annoying, really expensive as well to like go back and forth. And then, but I was just like, no, I'm not going to find anyone here. Like I trust him. He knows my voice. And then,
Uh-huh.
yeah, it took me ages to get better. And then voice therapy and stuff. But no, definitely can hit notes that I was never able to belt beforehand. I think because a lot of it, like I've taken a lot of the pressure off myself, because I can't, um, I just couldn't use as much force, I suppose, as I was using before. And so therefore it's just like much easier to sing a lot higher and louder and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, you don't know how long. I wonder how long I actually was dealing with these problems without realizing, and I was already kind of working around
Mm-hmm.
having something there, a lesion there, and so yeah, you work around it, and so then once it's gone, you're like, oh my goodness, this just feels so much easier.
It's
But
incredible.
yeah, don't push on when you're sick, kids. That's the moral of the story because
No,
yeah, it's
definitely,
like you
definitely
are
not.
more prone to injury, obviously, when you are if you've been coughing or if for whatever reasons that the vocal folds are swollen and inflamed. And yeah, that was definitely my story, burning the candle at both ends, and I was ill as well, and I was working 6 days a week. I was coaching, I was gigging, and yeah, enough was enough. Eventually, I
Hmm.
was forced to stop somewhat, though I did have to continue coaching whilst I was waiting for my surgery, which was a a tale in itself.
I just don't know how you manage that, but I think that there's so many teachers out there who are just as you exactly like you're saying, working 6 days a week. You're wanting to sing, you're gigging at the same time, you're wanting to continue on, and there's no voice left, there's no energy left at the end of the day, and it's just tired. You're pressing on, your voice is fatigued, and yet we're like almost ignoring a lot of the advice that we give our students in the same sort of way, but you're trying to be a singer and a teacher at the same time, and they're both very, very vocally demanding.
Yeah,
um and I think that's, yeah, almost like a problem in our system actually.
definitely. And as I've gone on to have clients and ex-students that have gone on to have the exact same injury where they've been
Mm,
forced again to sing on illness or to sing through illness, which has then left them with an injury that has required surgery and meant that they, have been out of work for longer than if they'd been able to just rest their voice at the time when they were feeling unwell.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, there is definitely a lack of understanding. I'm not referring to my employers, I'm referring more sort of to specific clients that I've spoken to
Yeah.
recently that have been in a performing contract, and have fallen ill and have needed to stop singing and haven't been allowed to, and have then gone on to get an injury,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that's cost them thousands of pounds to get surgically dealt with, and then put them out of work for longer. And yeah, it's there definitely needs to be some more understanding around that, because if it was a physical injury, you know, you wouldn't be expected to continue dancing.
Mhm.
But yeah, my employees were very understanding as they could be, but I had to carry on working because you have to pay the bills. And I had some really good speech and language therapy with Mary McDonald Clinic.
Oh yeah, I did as well. I did mine with her as well.
So she sort of helped me in that interim period
Mm-hmm.
to best manage and work
Yeah.
around the situation sort of as healthily as possible. At one point, I was using a microphone. I had a radio mic in my
Love
studios
it.
at work. Yeah, so we were just, yeah, we did the best that we could.
Mm-hmm.
Um, anyway, that does feel like a distant memory
Does
now.
feel like a long time ago. Did you have like a headset one or a handheld one?
Oh, it was one that clipped. Luckily,
Okay,
yeah.
like a lapel
I
mic.
my one of my good friends, he's an engineer, and he had like a storage unit full of equipment, and he did offer me the headset, and I said, I don't want to look like Britney or Madonna, you know. um,
I would so love that.
but yeah, I had some options.
Oh, that's good. That's a good way to do it, though. I think people. I've said that to a couple of clients who are teachers who have the same injury, and actually have then gone on to have an even worse injury because, like you just said, they weren't actually able to. It's like turned into an actual edema on the vocal folds, which now should really be dealt with like complete vocal rest, but they're not able to, and so it's like a snowball effect of just getting worse and worse. And yeah, they now teach with microphones because it's the only way that they're able to actually get any type of decent sound out there without really like pushing on their vocal folds. So
Yeah,
it's
you've got to do what you've got to do. I mean, I
mm,
don't know how useful I found it really, because the problem was all the talking. It wasn't even the singing. I mean,
yeah.
I had to accept there were certain things I couldn't do singing wise. I just couldn't. There was no sound coming out. And I did. My sister came along and helped me at work when I had to, when, yeah, there needed to be a lot of demonstration. So I'm grateful to her for that. But yeah, it's all the speaking that does it, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I think that's what a lot of people don't realize though, that actually the speaking is, as you're saying, like it's most of the issue. It's the most of the issue for teachers. It's the most of the issue for music teachers and being online as well, that you're fatiguing probably more in that sense than you probably would in if you were to sing the whole day, and to sing like, hello, how are you? I'm very good, thank you. Maybe yeah, I think at some point maybe your voice would just crap out though.
Um, Probably. But we tend to have better habits. Well, some of us have better habits for singing, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and speaking. And
But speak.
it's a switching between the two all the time as
Mm-hmm.
well, you know.
Oh, absolutely. It's like really, it's a challenge, I think, for everybody who's teaching. I think music in general, because I imagine it's the same if you're playing piano and if you're teaching piano and stuff all day as well. You're using your voice as well. But speaking of where are you teaching actually at the moment?
But at the
Because I know you're
moment,
teaching at Arts One, right?
yeah, Arts One, who have just this year launched a degree program.
I saw that they're doing their bachelor. It's so exciting, and I see that you're doing the one-to-one singing lessons as well. That was actually the only place where I could find your
I really
bio.
don't even know
Your
what's on there. They yes, so I'm doing one-to-ones with all of the degree students,
cool,
and also a group session with them weekly.
awesome.
Well, and then the other days currently I'm at London Studio Centre
Oh,
still.
cool.
So yeah,
Oh,
it's
that's
full on.
amazing. I can imagine. How many days are you teaching at the moment?
5 days. So I'm back to full time. I say
Mhm.
back to, my son's 3 now, so it was actually ages ago that I was off on maternity, but I did after maternity I went back
Mm-hmm.
to full-time work.
Cool. Yeah, it's awesome. You're doing amazing teaching and you're doing amazing work with the students. But I had, as I say, very hard to find information on you, but you did a Bachelor of Actor Musicianships, I saw,
I did
from
indeed.
Rose Bruford. Was your so actor musicianship? It's basic. Well, it's an actor bachelor with for people who are good musicians, basically, to do the actor muso kind of stuff. As a
Yeah. So it was the same training as like the standard conservatoire actor training,
okay,
but with the additional musicianship
Mm-hmm.
elements. Yeah, with you had to be able to play an instrument. I think
Mm-hmm.
it was preferable if you had more than one, to a proficient level. You didn't need to necessarily, you didn't need to read music or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And we got like band sessions as part of our timetable, and we got more singing lessons than the acting strand.
Cool. Was your instrument piano or was it, I mean, singing, right? And
Well, I auditioned with piano and oboe at random and saxophone. I say random, I played the oboe for so many years. But it's kind of random when you think about it as an instrument and you know what kind of works in shows. I suppose more orchestral type
yeah.
pieces, but definitely when I graduated and I was auditioning, I would get sent for like rock panto, and they'd be like, "Bring your oboe." I've also played the saxophone, and that made much more sense to me. But yeah, oboe, random.
That's
But
very
yeah,
cool.
I think I played all three in my audition. Pretty
Wow.
sure, because everyone plays the piano. You know, there was a lot of people that were had piano or guitar. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I think I lugged my oboe and my sax as well.
Do you think that that's so important now? Like, I mean, London is basically, I feel like when, still working in London, it's very much like you have to do so much. You have to, like, act, sing, dance, play all these instruments. Do you feel
Mhm.
like that's now more, you're at the kind of the forefront of the where these kids are coming into uni? Do you feel like that's more important now that you're able to play like more than one instrument?
If you want to go into the more actor muso stuff,
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, I think generally speaking, for like musical theatre performers, you have to be, I mean, long gone are the days of just being triple threat. You have to be multidisciplinary. You have to be able to do lots of different things at a high level, because if you can't, somebody else can. But I
Mm-hmm.
think the playing an instrument thing, that's quite niche and specific
Okay.
to actor musician roles, or actor musician performances, or it's handy, you know, if you're doing Shakespeare or something. But to get on the courses, I should imagine it goes in your favour if you have more than one instrument, particularly if it's a slightly more obscure instrument like the
Cool.
oboe, or they love an accordion. That's what well, they did love an accordion. If you could play the accordion. um yeah, I don't know why.
Really? Accordion's very big in Germany. So I reckon like a couple of the
In
German
Europe,
students
for
there,
sure.
they
Yeah.
love a bit of accordion.
um which
That's
I could not play the accordion. I think I did have a go though, um in during my training, but I could only do the right hand.
mm-hmm.
I didn't understand this thing that controlled the air.
I've I've
um,
never tried, and I don't think I ever will. I'm just like I still can't even play the piano to the
oh, come
stamp that I
on.
really want to be able to play it to. So I want to, I definitely
Play
want to.
you can more than play the piano, my goodness.
But so you're, you going into this, you come out with this bachelor, you did you go straight into then gigging and performing sort of in musical theater? Were you up for more musical theater stuff? Were you up for more of the actor muso things? Where did you end up working mostly when you came out?
I did a little bit when I came out that was more sort of actor muso type stuff in terms of the work that I actually did. The auditions that I was getting, some of it was just acting
Mm-hmm.
roles, as well. But I did a little bit of that. But then alongside that, I'd already sort of gotten heavily into the Estill
Okay.
stuff. So I think I pretty much started the Estill Master Training, Estill Master Trainer training, when I graduated, and I was also doing a lot of sort of studio work. So
Mm-hmm.
backing vocals, a little bit of songwriting, recording demos and things, for people. So that's kind of where I went. And then, yeah, sort of turned my back a little bit on the theatre stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Gone back.
Why?
It's a mix of things, really. I mean, it's not particularly inspirational, but I didn't like, I like security, and I didn't like that life, where you would get a call from your agent that would be like, tomorrow you've got this audition and you need to do X, Y, and Z. And most people would be so happy and so grateful that they're getting auditions and would be excited. But me, I would just be filled with panic about, oh God, what is it I'm supposed to be doing tomorrow? And now I'm going to have to cancel that, or I'm going to have to find a way around that. And yeah, so I didn't really like, I wasn't willing to do anything
Mm-hmm.
just to, yeah, to take any, I didn't have an interest really in touring and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
which you can't, if you're serious, if you want to fill up your actor's CV, you've got to be open to doing that. And um yeah, so that was the main reason really I didn't like the insecurity of
Mm-hmm.
it. I'm sure I was the only person in my graduating year who was filled with dread when they saw their agent's number come ring, flashing up on their phone. I would just be like, oh God, what now? And I just knew that that's not how I should be feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I did a little bit and got a bit of experience, but then I was getting more into the studio stuff and
Yeah.
also the Estill stuff, um, and then the coaching alongside that. So that ended up taking up a lot of time. And I think in the end, there was sort of a mutual fizzle out with my agent, because I ended up getting my appendix burst, which is, of course, so dramatic. But the last, I was sort of trying to turn down auditions leading up to that, and would often get I'd say, oh, I don't think that that's the right thing for me to go for. And they would be like, it's not up to you whether you think you're right. And I'd be like, yeah, but I'm probably not a Juliet, really. And this is the third time you're sending me up for Juliet. Um, but they were right, and I should have just gone for it. But I think I can't remember what the final thing is that they came with, but I was actually hospitalised and with because my appendix had burst. So I had a very genuine reason to be like, yeah, I can't go to this audition. Sorry, I'm quite sick. And then it just, yeah, we didn't have any more contact after that. And I was
Wow.
fine with that, really.
It's so we have a very similar story in terms of the way that it fizzled out as well with my agent as well. It just sort of like he just sort of didn't stop contacting me because
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to go on a cruise ship. And for
Mhm.
him, that was just like his bread and butter. He was just like,
Yeah.
cruise ships, I just want, and I was like, I have no interest. I get seasick. I couldn't
Mhm.
think of anything worse than being under the sea level on a boat with other people. I was like, no. And same as you, I was getting way more coaching work than I was getting in the auditions. I was just losing work, like left, right, and center. I was being fired because I was like,
Mhm.
oh, sorry, I can't go into work tomorrow like I planned to do. I've got this audition come up.
That made me feel so uncomfortable.
Mm,
I hate to let people down, and I was more so than such a people pleaser, and
mhm.
yeah, I would just feel so uncomfortable, even if it was not a job that I particularly cared about. I didn't like having to be like, oh, can we rearrange everything, or can I find someone to cover my shift because I need to go to this audition that I was pretty sure I wasn't the best candidate for half of the time as
Mhm.
well. So, but if I'd been serious about pursuing it, I would have gone and I would have got, I knew that it wasn't the thing that was lighting my fire.
Yeah. That's
But
good that you found that out, that you ended up, realizing that and switching to coaching, and doing more singing teaching then pretty
Mhm.
soon after that. But you still sing though, right? You don't just teach. You do
Yeah, I mean, I do in theory. I haven't done a great deal since my son was born. I haven't done a hell of a lot. And then
hmm
prior to that, it was COVID, so that was
Yeah.
weird. Um, but I've done some, so it's not been like live performing, but I've had to record things for people,
Cool.
backing vocals, demo vocals, that sort of thing.
hmm
Um, but yeah, currently at the moment, there's not a huge amount of time for my own sort of personal performing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, being a mum. Sounds like an excuse, but yeah, it doesn't work well, gigging and stuff
Yeah.
doesn't really work very well around having a toddler. But the recording stuff is much easier, obviously, because you can kind of do it as and when fit it in
Yeah,
your.
absolutely. I shouldn't have said it like that you're just teaching. I think it's really, I think it's a constant balancing act for people who do teach and still want to sing. And obviously, with a toddler, it's like you're juggling and partner and life and all these sorts of and work, you're juggling all these different things. And obviously at some point something's got to give, and it's kind of like a give and take just throughout life, I think. And if you're going through a phase where you're singing a little bit less, then that's just the way that's happening at the moment.
Well, I feel like I sing all the time because at work,
Mm-hmm.
constantly singing. But in terms of performing, yeah, I haven't done that in a little while, I have to
Mm-hmm.
say. I'm sure what with COVID and where everything sort of changed a little bit.
Yeah.
And
Auditions changed as well. I feel like the
oh,
whole structure of auditions and the way that we knew it also changed quite a lot. And, so much of it is now, first, second, third rounds are all happening online rather than, which I suppose on one side is a good thing. On the other side, it's sort of, you don't really get that sort of like presence when you walk into a room and that sort of like adrenaline. But I feel like the whole system has kind of changed, which is making it, it's another hurdle, but it's also something to get used to, that to that sort of change of the way that you're running auditions.
definitely, it's definitely there's benefits to doing it like that. Obviously, more people can be seen, and people don't have to travel.
Yeah.
And my whole complaint about having to give up a whole day's work to go off to an audition, that isn't the case if you're doing self tapes
Yeah.
because you can do them in your own time. So yeah, I think it's good, but I don't love it for my clients and my
Mm-hmm.
students when they don't necessarily have a good setup, or it's like you said, you don't there's so much more that you get when you meet somebody in person, isn't there? And um, I think there's the whole thing with recording yourself, because you have the option to look back on it and to
Mm-hmm.
scrutinize it. It's not the same as when you go into that audition, you've got one take
Yeah.
and it's live. And, if you make some mistakes or things are not executed the way that you want them to be, nobody's rewinding that moment. It's a
No.
fleeting moment, it's gone. And, we're all humans, so that happens. But I think, yeah, self-taping, haven't had to do loads of it, thankfully, because I'm such a perfectionist. I feel like I would end up recording about 500 takes, even though I know you shouldn't do that, and probably going with the first one. That's what always
Mm-hmm.
happens. It's the same when I record just, audio. Um, you do it so much that you then can't hear anything anymore.
No. And you just end up taking the first one and you're just like, oh, well, that's good enough. I can't hear the difference between any of these takes
Yeah.
unless you got a producer, behind, which is, different. But if you're doing it yourself, I find I'm just like, oh God, this 20th version, I'm not sounding any better than.
Exactly. And I think everyone's ears are broken by that point, when you get into the
Mhm.
fourth hour, even when I've worked with producers or engineers, and sometimes, yeah, their ears are not working either at that point, and everyone just needs to step away,
Yeah.
have a couple of days break. But yeah, if you are a perfectionist and you're trying to self-tape, challenging.
I think as well, just I've found with clients that it's really about finding the pianist or the track or whatever and the key. And if you're walking into a live audition, it's much easier to go, okay, here's the key of the that play it, and the audition pianist will play it, and the panel will accept if there's a couple of notes from them wrong, and if there's a couple, if they're looking for the sound and the atmosphere, which obviously is really challenging to kind of figure out in the self-tape situation. But you teach at London Studio Centre is predominantly a dance university, right? And you teaching on the musical theatre program.
Yeah, I have students on mostly on the MT pathway, but also the jazz dance students also, they have singing as part of
Cool.
their program.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't remember what it was like when you were there. Perhaps it was pre-validation, but yeah, they come in on a pathway now.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And the musical theatre element of it has grown a lot in
Fantastic.
the last few years.
I can't quite remember, to be honest. I know that there was sort of only 2 years of the music. No, there were 3 years of the musical theatre program.
There was, so
I
they
think, but it was like, I think an elective that they could have chosen with their dancing. They could choose like the musical. I wasn't quite sure about that, about how it kind of worked.
well, they have now, they can audition for music theatre, jazz dance, contemporary, and ballet.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, so that's always been the case. And the ballet and the contemporary students, they don't get singing as part of their core training, but
Okay.
they can choose to take it as like an option and they get a couple of
Mm-hmm.
hours a week.
Oh, that's really
Um,
fantastic.
yeah. So a lot of experience working with dancers.
Mm-hmm. But I think this is interesting because dancers are traditionally, and working with dancers and things like that. I think that there's so much that kind of is a little bit counterintuitive in terms of singing. Did you do a lot of dancing with your training? Because if you did the BA in actor muso,
Um,
was there
Not
dancing
there.
involved in that?
Not, I mean, there was movement and
Mm-hmm.
social dance, but
Okay.
before that, I went to Italia Conti for a year, so
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot more dance there. I didn't stay. And I did do dance classes
Yeah.
as I was growing up, but yeah, I didn't do loads. I say that. I feel like I went quite far with the examinations,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I mean, yeah, by no means an elite dancer. I've never been.
Think
Um,
it's interesting how we kind of like talk ourselves down a little bit because you're used to working with like, I mean, like the kids at London Studio, they're insane dancers, right? Like they are amazing and they have been dancing since they were probably able to walk. They were put into dance classes. So if we're talking about like the difference,
I
and
was
then
not that level for sure, and that's why I didn't stay at
mhm,
Italia Conti. It's not what I wanted to do anyway, but
okay.
yeah, my dance was not. It was not that at that level, no
Mhm.
way. But I've had a fair amount of experience in dance classes
Yeah.
a very long time ago. Um, and I don't know if you remember much. I don't know if when you were working there at studios, did we have the West Wing? So where you had the see-through studios?
No.
No, oh my goodness, it really was ages ago. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the studios are see-through, so we get to see what's going on.
Yeah, amazing.
Rooms are see-through; they're like fish bowls, which is good and bad, I would say.
I think I mean, yeah, it could be challenging, I suppose, if like someone important kind of like walks past you, like, oh no, I need like to, but I need to impress this person. But what would you say would be one of like the most challenging things that probably so many challenges that they face, but like coming from like a dancing background and going into the singing, what do you think you would work? Is there sort of like one sort of thing that you work on mostly with them?
Um, yeah, so a typical presenting dancer probably has a fair amount of tension,
Mm-hmm.
and probably um, recruits a lot of air pressure to make
Okay.
sound. So there's a lot of work done on releasing the abdominal wall, not driving loads of breath,
Mm-hmm.
releasing tension in the root of the tongue, the jaw, the neck, the upper body. I would say that's a typical presenting student
Mm-hmm.
somewhere like London Studio Centre. Obviously, if they're approaching their singing with the same level of muscle effort as they approach their dance classes, yeah, it's not going to work. I mean, that's not useful for speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them are very locked and are holding and sucking in and pulling up and doing all of that when they're just existing, in the
Yeah.
room and just speaking. So then when it comes to singing, those things can increase. So yeah, it's really about effort levels and where that effort needs to go, and a lot um, on air pressure.
Oh, amazing. And do you then I mean, I know there's no sort of like typical, it's a muscle, so it just takes as long as it takes. Do you find that sort of by the end of the 3 years, they've got a really good feeling of reducing that level of effort within their body? Or do you say that sort of at the end, they need to continue on with someone like yourself, or that they would continue on with someone? I mean, a lot of them, I know they continue on with voice lessons, because if you're working professionally, you do tend to continue on after university. It's often not enough. But do you feel like at the end of those 3 years, they've kind of got a good sense of releasing those muscles?
Some of them, yeah, some of them for sure. But what we're actually asking of them is really, really challenging, because, of course, they are still dancing and they're trying to be, triple threat is the word. It depends what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But in somewhere like London Studio Centre, the degree is a dance degree.
Mm-hmm.
So it is very heavily weighted in the dance. I mean, it's become less so on the musical theatre pathway as the years have gone on, but they are. I remember somebody asking Ed Blake this once about, how do you, if you're a musical theatre performer, how do you, if you're dancing and singing, how do you release the abdominal wall enough so that you
Yeah.
are not making life really hard on your voice, whilst also recruiting the muscles you need to recruit to do the moves that you're given to do by the choreographer. And I remember I hope I'm not misquoting him, but I remember his response being something along the lines of, you have to be incredibly skilled.
Wow.
You have to be incredibly skilled. So some of them do,
Mm-hmm.
and they get really good at it, and others less so. But not all of those students are wanting to, and many of them, they're not going to go on to play leads in musicals, but they do want to do cruise ships or swing,
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. Um, so yeah, it kind of depends on what they want to do and how much effort and work they're going to put into that.
I mean, obviously that's like, that was such a generalized question. Is just like, it's very much on an individualized basis. But I really like, basically Ed Blake is the founder of Physio Ed in London, and he works with the top musical theatre performers
Mhm.
and top actors and top performers, really, and also teachers and everything in London.
Pop
And
stars.
yeah, it basically pop stars, like everybody goes to Ed Blake in order to get either like larynx manipulation, working on the tongue tension. He's a physiotherapist, but he also specializes in, is one of the first people actually that really specialized in performing arts physiotherapy.
He
Um,
was. I think he pioneered the vocal massage stuff, I think.
yeah, wow.
Um, yeah, yeah, he's the only person that I've ever been to for any of that sort of stuff,
Yeah.
and refer people a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, sorry, I've taken you off track now. I think you
No, I
heading.
wasn't. I was just saying that I just wanted to say that that's who, if you are in London and a performer and singer, I really highly recommend that you go and see Physio Ed. Actually, all of the people that work there are amazing. I never actually managed to see Ed himself, but I was working quite closely with a couple of the
Yeah.
physios there, which were really fantastic and really helped as well to understand what was going on in the body. I think as a performer, to go like, these muscles are the ones you want to turn on, those are the ones you want to turn off, with the ultrasound, which I found always really fun.
Exactly that I mean, he came and did a couple of seminars at London Studio Centre.
Mm-hmm.
He actually brought the ultrasound machine and was getting people
Wow.
sirening whilst he was scanning the abdominal wall and showing them exactly what muscles they're using and
Uh-huh.
they're contracting them, and trying to get them to experience doing a lot less,
Mm-hmm.
which to a dancer feels like nothing,
Yeah.
and sort of helping them to get their head around, yeah, you don't need any of that.
Mm-hmm.
That extra activity there is not helping you with your voice production. In fact, it's hindering you. It's making life a lot harder.
Which I think is just so cool that you can see that as well with the ultrasound. And it is a really good idea if it's possible to go and I don't know who you would go and see if you don't necessarily like live in London to go and see a physio like Physio Ed, but to go and, you know, to see those muscles and working in the way
Yeah.
that you can, you know, a lot of it is recruiting. Same for people who do a lot of fitness and a lot of weightlifting and things like that.
Oh, gosh.
Way more, like way less work than you feel like you need to do,
Yeah,
I think.
absolutely.
Unfortunately, I have to say
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining me today, because I think we could like wax lyrical about everything that dancers need to do, which is like a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah, it's very different. Put it this way. I mean, I've worked at London Studios Centre for a very long time. It's very different compared to. I worked at Birmingham Conservatoire and
Mm-hmm.
Mountview, where more actor based or actor
Yeah.
singers. It's a different type of student. So yeah, the common issues that you come across are definitely quite specific
Mm-hmm.
to dancers for sure. So you weren't particular. Well, it was right to generalize because there are some very common things that we face.
And are you taking on one-to-one students at the moment?
Not really. I have
Okay.
no space, but I mean, I do every now and then. I get some inquiries
Uh-huh.
through my website.
Yeah.
Which you were you not able to find that then? So maybe I should
I
did
did
find
find your
out.
website. I did find your website, but it definitely needs a little bit of an update to bit like to reflect what's going on in your life right now. But if you I will link that up down below. But I think it's really fantastic if if you are a dancer who's struggling with voice production and things like that, to get in touch with Pierina, because I know you also have colleagues as well at the London Studio Centre if you aren't able to have a lesson with you.
There are so many people that I could refer you on to, or maybe we could do something over Zoom.
Yeah, I love that.
Once I sort out the light, I mean, awful. Just
You
translate
say that and it looks
no
really
background,
it,
but
I think you say that, but I think it looks really, really fantastic actually. Like the white looks really great. It's
oh,
awesome.
okay, fine.
It's,
No, I'll trust you on that then.
that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me,
Very
Pierina.
well.
It's so lovely to see you. And I think it's just really amazing the work that you're doing, and especially around, I think it's really awesome to see dancers, as you've just said, like it's a specialized kind of training that they need to receive as well for singing. It's not just like, okay, you need to go back to let's close the vocal folds. It's really about looking at them from a dancer perspective and coming in from what their issues are from really like a specialized point of view. And I think that's really fantastic. Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
I will do. Thank you.